Welcome to this predicted paper from On Maths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our On Maths site. On Maths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. For us to create the largest number, we need to pick the biggest digits for the start of the number. So the biggest digit is 7, then 6, then 4, then 3. But the question says it wants the largest even number, so we need to just swap the last two around to make sure that it is even. So our answer is 7,634. So with this question, we need to first of all count how many sides this polygon has. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 sides. And we just need to know that a 10-sided shape is a decagon. Now we are expected to know all of the names of shapes between 3 and 10 sides, so if you don't know them already, just sit down and learn them. Mode means most common or most frequent, and looking at this list of numbers, the number that comes up the most is this 7. All the other numbers just come up once, a 7 comes up twice. Here we're given or asked for a cube root of a number. So what we need to do is we need to understand first of all what the cube root of 125 is. Well, I know that 5 to the power of 3, 5 cubed is 125, and that's something you need to know off by heart. Therefore, the cube root of 125 is like the opposite, it's the inverse. So the cube root is the inverse of cubing, so that's going to equal 5. So if the cube root of 125 is 5, what's the cube root of minus 125? Well, I know the cube root of 125 is 5 because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. 5 times itself 3 times is 125. So what times itself 3 times is going to equal minus 125, where it's going to be minus 5 times minus 5, which would be positive 25, times minus 5 will be a negative minus 125. So our answer is going to be minus 5. When a number is times by itself twice, we write it as 3 squared, or that number squared. When it's times by itself 3 times, we do 3 to the power of 3, or that number to the power of 3. So when we've got something times by itself 4 times, it's just going to be that number to the power of 4. This question's all about like terms. So what we can do is we can add this 10u with this 11u to make 21u. We can also add this 6v with this plus 4v to make 10v. We can also add this 10w to this minus 6w. So 10 take away 6 is 4w, so plus 4w. But we can't add a u term to a v term to a w term. So we have to just leave them be. So our answer is 21u plus 10v plus 4w. But we can multiply them, we just can't add or subtract them. One way we can convert a fraction to a percentage is we can get the bottom of the fraction to be 100. So if we write down 2 over 5, and what we can do is we can times top and bottom by 20. But let's do it by 10 first. We'll do it in 2 steps. So times that by 10, times that by 10, and then double it. So essentially we can times the whole thing by 20. So 50 times 2 is 100. Now, when you have 40 over 100, percent just means per 100. So it's 40 per 100, or 40%. If If we write in how many sides each shape has, triangle has 3, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, hexagon 6, you'll notice the number of vertices is twice the amount of each of them. So if a shape has 15 sides, we just times that by 2 and it will have 30 vertices. We're going to start just by copying out the question. Now when we're asked to solve, it means we need to find x, okay? And I'm going to start by putting in my solving lines, which are just lines to the left and right of the equal sign. And what we need to do is get x on its own on the left hand side. Well, what's stopping x from being on its own? We've got this 12 here. Well, what's that 12 doing to the x? Well, it's timesing it by 12. So we need to do the opposite of that to get rid of it. What is the opposite of times 12? Divided by 12. Now these lines show us we've got to do the same to the left and right. So if I divide the left hand side by 12, I have to divide the right hand side by 12. So on the left hand side we just have the x, which is what we want. On the right hand side we do 36 divided by 12. How many 12s in 36? That would be 3. So our solution is x equals 3. Another way of thinking about 19 over 8 is just 19 divided by 8. And to do 19 divided by 8, we put 8 on the outside and we do the bus stop. And we've got 19 there. So 8 doesn't go into 1, so we're just going to move that 1 across. 8 goes into 19 twice, but there are remainders, so we'll need to put some zeros on the end here. And it's remainder 3. 8 goes into 33 times, and there's a remainder of 6. 8 goes into 67 times, and there's a remainder 4. And 8 actually goes exactly into 40, so we didn't need some of those zeros. So the answer will be 2.375. So what we need to do is find out where the graph is at its highest, and so it's highest here. And so if we go down from there, we find out what year it is. Well, these years seem to be going up in 1, so that's 1950, 1951, 1952. So the answer would be 1952. We're going to first of all have to convert these both into the same unit. So we've got minutes and hours. That's not going to help us much. So what I'm going to do is pick the smaller unit, which will be minutes. So I'm going to keep that 50 minutes. And I'm going to convert 3 hours into minutes. That would be 180 because we times by 60. And I'm going to just remove the minutes now. And I can first of all divide by 10, and we want to try and make it nice and simple for ourselves. So divide by 10 would be 5 to 18. And we look at it, 5 and 18, actually there's nothing further we can do with that. So the ratio would be 5 to 18. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. So with a stem and leaf diagram, the numbers in the middle often represent tens. They could be units. So we look at the key first of all, and we see that 3 line 9 means 93. So the numbers in the middle are going to represent 10. So this is a 90. Now we're looking for English, so this will be 92. So our first number will be 92. Then this will be 10 tens and a 4. So it would be 104. 11 tens and 1. So 111, and then 11 tens and 2. So to find the median, we go cross out the biggest and smallest until we're left with 1 or 2 in the middle. Here we're left with 2. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add the 104 to the 111, and we're just going to divide that by 2. So when we do that, we get 107.5 or 0.5. So our answer is 107.5. So what we do is we notice that to get this 10, we add the 3 and the 7. To get this 17, we add the 7 and the 10. And to get this 27, we add the 10 and the 17. Whenever we have this kind of sequence, it's called a Fibonacci sequence. You essentially add the previous two terms to get to the next term. And so what we need to do is just simply add the 17 and the 27. When you do that, you get 44. So our next term is 44. Instead of doing 0.43 times 16, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 43 times 16. So I'm just going to get rid of the decimal and just change it to 43. But I've got to remember what I've done. So how have I managed to do that? Well, I've times it by 100, and that'll be important at the end. And to do 43 times 16, there are loads and loads of different methods. Just pick whichever method you enjoy doing or that you find easiest. I'm going to do the grid method, but it by no means is the best method. It's just the one I'm choosing to do. So 43 is 43, and 16 is 10 and 6. So 40 times 10 is 400, 40 times 6 is 240, 10 times 3 is 30, and 3 times 6 is 18. Then I'm just going to add them all together. So 400 plus 240 plus 30 plus 18. And when you add those all together, you get 688. Okay. Now, the problem is that obviously this is not going to equal 688. What we've done though is we've timesed it by 100. So to find the answer, all we need to do is divide this, undo that times by 100, so divide it by 100. When we divide that by 100, we get 6.88. I'm going to start by working out what the building is, or the width of the building is in centimetres. So it says 33 metres, and I'm going to convert that into centimetres by timesing by 100. Okay. Now when it says it has a scale of 1 to 300, it means 300 in real life is 1 on our map. So all I need to do is divide it by 300 to find out what it's going to be on our map. So we'll just divide that by 300 and I get the answer of 11. So it's going to be 11 centimetres on our map. So for this question, we just need to pick one of the coordinates. And I'm just going to pick this one here. And we just need to work out what the coordinates are. Well, it's going up in 2, so it's going to be 4 on this side, and this is kind of 4.5, so that's going to be 19 there. So we know it's 19 at the bottom and 4 at the side here. So we're going to have a look on our table for a 4 and a 19. We've got a 19 and 23 here. It's got to be a 4 and a 19, which is here. And it shows that the 4 is for paper 1 and the 19 is for paper 2. So our answer will just be paper 2. So I think about ratios as piles of money sometimes, and here we've got J getting 5 piles of money and Anne getting 4 piles of money, and each pile is going to be equal. So we've got to first of all work out how many piles of money there are. So we just add the 5 and the 4, so there's 9 piles of money. We sometimes in maths call them parts, so we say that we have 9 parts, okay, or 9 piles of money. Now, each part, oh, I've got an equals there, each part, or each pile is going to be worth what 99, okay, which is the total amount of money, divided by how many equal piles we have, so divided by that 9. So 99 divided by 9 is 11. So one part is worth £11. So J has 5 piles of £11. So J has 5 times 11, which is 55. And Anne has 4 piles of that money. So 4 times 11, which is 44. We can check this by adding the two together, and it should add up to the amount of money we have, which is 99, which it does. One thing we need to know about a parallelogram is that the lengths that are opposite are equal. So this length here is going to be 5 centimeters, and the length at the bottom is going to be 10 centimeters. And to work out the perimeter, all we need to do is add up the length. So what I do is I pick a point and I go around the shape. So we're going to go around the shape. So we're going to do 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5, and then when I return to the point where I started, I then stop. And when you do that, you get the answer of 30. And it's a perimeter, it's a distance, so it's centimeters. Some people often forget and put centimeters squared. You only do that when you've got an area. So with a perimeter, it's a length, it's a distance, so it's just 30 centimeters. The modal class is just the group that has the mode. Okay, the modal group. Class just means group. Now all these guys here are groups, so any of these could be the answer. To find the modal class or the modal group, we just look to see which one has the most numbers in it. Well, the first group has 16 in it, the next group has 11, the next group 17, the next group 11, and the next group, or the last group, 13. Which of those is the most? Well, 17. So the group that has the most is this 30. Let's do that a bit nicer. 30, and then C, and then 35. That essentially means 30 to 35, but make sure you copy it down correctly from the table, so exactly as it shows it in the table. To find the surface area of the cuboid, I'm just going to label the faces and do them individually. So we've got A, which is 24 by 13. So we're going to do 24 times 13, which is 312. Next we're going to do B, which is this one at the top, and it's 24 across and 8 is the length. So 24 times 8, which is 192. And finally C on this side here, which is going to be 13 times 8, which is 104. Now notice that the faces all have the exact same face on the opposite side. So this one at the back is also A, this one at the side is also C, and the one at the bottom is also B. So what I'm going to do is add up all the areas of the squares and double it. So to work out the surface area, we're going to do 2 times and then 312 plus 192 plus 104. And that will give me 1,216 centimeters cubed squared, because it's an area. Bearings are always from north and go clockwise. So let's have a look at where the north line is. Well, the north line is here. And to find the bearing of B from A, so that means we're at A and we're looking at the angle of B, we're going to go clockwise. And you can see on the diagram it's already labelled as 42 degrees. But the third rule of bearings is they must be 3 digits. So instead of 42, it's going to be 0, 4, 2. So we've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether. So oil has 21 parts, vinegar has 5. So altogether there's 21 plus 5, which is 26 parts. Now, how many of those parts are vinegar? Well, vinegar is the second one, so it's going to be this 5. So vinegar has 5 out of the 26 parts, or a fraction would be 5 over 26. Integer just means whole number, so we're looking for all the whole numbers that satisfy these two inequalities. Well, the first inequality says that it has to be greater than 3. So the smallest number that is greater than 3 is 4. The second inequality says it has to be less than or equal to 8. So I'm just going to keep going till I get to a number that is less than or equal to 8. It can't be 9 because 9 is not less than or equal to 8. So our answer is 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So to find the gradient, we need the formula or the equation in the form y equals mx plus c. and the m there will give us what the gradient is. So we're just going to be rearranging this equation. And so I'll get my lines in. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the x's from the left hand side, and we can do that by adding 6x both sides. So we've got 6y equals, and I'm going to put the 6x first just to match the y equals mx plus c. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 6 because we just want a y there. So we're going to divide by 6 both sides. So we've got y equals 1x plus 36. Now we shouldn't really write 1, but because we're looking for m, we're looking for the number before x, I've kind of left it in there to show that the gradient will be 1. To find the pressure, we need the area and the force. And we're given the force in the question, and so all we need to do is find out what the area is, which will be the 7 times the 9, which will be 63 centimeters squared. And the force is given to us in the question, so what we can do is write down the pressure formula, which says that pressure equals the force divided by the area. Force is given to us as 2268. The area we've calculated is 63. Divide the 2 and you get 36. So it's going to be 36 newtons per centimetre squared. So in this question we are told that the centre of enlargement is at 6, 4. So let's just put across there. And what I'm going to do is just draw ray lines from the centre of enlargement, and we're just going to go through each of the corners of our shape A. And we're going to just check whether it goes through the corner of shape B, which it does on this one. Let's just keep going. Yeah, it does on this one. But it does not on this one. So it says find the coordinate of the vertex of shape B that is not correct. So the coordinate is this one here, and so that would be -4, 1. The important thing to realise in this question is that we know a female has been selected, so we can just basically get rid of all of this part of the frequency tree because it's not relevant, because we know a female has been selected. So there's 29 females altogether, and we're looking for the probability that the female chosen at random picked action. So it's just simply 16 over 29. So in this question we basically need to add the 2 3/4 and the 2 2/5. So we're going to do 2 3/4 plus 2 2/5. Now if I just rewrite this, 2 3/4 can be written as 2 plus 3/4 plus 2 plus 2 1/5, or 2/5. So we can add the 2 2's together to make 4, and then all we need to do is add the 3/4 and the 2/5. So when you add two numbers with different denominators, what we need to do is get the common denominators, and we do that by just quickly writing out the 4 and the 5 times table and seeing what the first number in both their times tables is. 16, 20, and 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's 20. So we need to get the bottoms of the fractions to 20. Now for 3/4, to get the bottom to equal 20, we need to times the 4 by 5. And whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top, so times that by 5 as well, which will be 15. And for 2/5, we'll get that bottom to 20, so we times that by 4. And so we've got times the top by 4 as well to make it 8. So it's going to be 15 over 20 plus 8 over 20. So we need to add the numerators. So it'd be 15 plus 8, which is going to be 23 over 20. Now that is a top-heavy fraction, so we can rewrite that as 1 and 3/20. And we can add the 4 and the 1 together to make 5 and 3/20. So the answer is 5 and 3/20. So to find the area of a rectangle, we do length times the width. So here, to find the area, we will do the 10 times the whole of the 10t plus 4. And to show that we're doing the whole of it, we put it in brackets. So a different way of writing that is 10 brackets 10t plus 4. And whichever method you use to expand brackets, feel free to do it here. I'm going to just do the grid method, but whatever method you prefer. Actually, I don't need the, I've done too many here. Let's get rid of that. So we've got 10 times 10t plus 4. So and we're timesing them. So 10 times 10t, 10 times 10 is 100. So it'd be 100t. 10 times 4 is 40. So our answer will be 100t plus 40. To find out what the value of x is, we first of all have to find out what the value of y is. And we can notice that we've got two sets of parallel lines here, and a line going through them. And we kind of got these f angles, which we have to call corresponding angles. So we know that 2y minus 50 is equal to 78. And we must write down the reason. So corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are equal. Now here we've got an equation and we want to solve it. So we get our lines in. We go first of all add 50 to both sides. So we've got 2y equals 78 plus 50, which would be 128. And then we're going to halve both sides, or divide by 2. So we've got 64. So we know that y is 64. And so we look back at the diagram to find out how we'd work out x. Well, what we can do, there's a few different things we can do. We could work out the fact that these two here are vertically opposite. That would be absolutely fine. But actually, if we look at this part here and this part here, these are also two parallel lines, and we've got this angle here and this angle are going to be alternate. So I can write that down here. So angle ECB is equal to 78 degrees. So this will be 78 degrees. And the reason for that is alternate angles. And then finally, if we know this is 78 and we know that this is 64, because we know what y is, then we can work out what x is. So x equals 180, angles in a triangle, take away the 78 we know and the 64 we know. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. And just make sure you write down all the reasons as you go. And when we take away the 78 and the 64 from 180, you get 38. So x is therefore 38 degrees. So we know that 171 is 3 times 3 times 19. And what we do is we just compare 171 with 342. And we know that 171 times 2 is 342. So therefore 342 will have the same prime factors as 171, which is 3 times 3 times 19, but it will also have a times 2 in there. So the answer will be 2 times 3 times 3 times 19. So let's write these numbers out. And the first thing to do is work out what the numbers are going up by. So they're going up by minus 3, because they're minusing 3 each time. So we know that the number before the n is going to be minus 3. So whatever they go up in is the number before the n. Then what we do is we go backwards to find the 0th term. So actually going backwards, we would add 3 and we would find it to be 20. So whatever numbers our 0th term, because 17 is our first term, is going to be what we add to the minus 3n. So it's going to be add 20. So our answer is minus 3n plus 20. To convert from meters to centimeters, we times by 100. But here we're asked to convert between meters cubed and centimeters cubed. So we times it by 100 per dimension. Meters cubed and centimeters cubed is volume, which is 3 dimensions. So what we do is we times it by 100 3 times, times 100, times 100, times 100, or times by 100 cubed. So we get our amount, 0.15, times it by 100 cubed, and that will give us 150,000. So our answer is 150,000 centimeters cubed. So I'm going to write the question out. So y equals x plus 15. And we're told that we want to make x the subject to the formula. Now what that means is we want x on its own. What's stopping x from being on its own? This plus 15. So to get rid of it, we do the inverse, the opposite of plus 15 to both sides. Take away 15. So we end up with having y minus 15 on the left-hand side, and we've got rid of the plus 15, so we've just got x on the right-hand side. So x is equal to y minus 15. So to find the locus of points that are 10 centimeters away from a point, you need to measure 10 centimeters on a pair of compasses, and then you put the point at A and draw them. Now I'm going to try my best to do this. It's probably not going to look perfect, but I'll do my best. And the length here, which is supposed to be, probably isn't exactly, but this part here is going to be 10 centimeters to get the full marks, and obviously you want the circle to be a little bit nicer than the one I've drawn, but try and get it as perfect as you can. And the best way of doing that is just don't push down too much and just move the page around with your compass being stationary. Whenever we solve, we've got to get rid of any fractions or brackets first. Now looking at this, there's no fractions, but there are 2 sets of brackets. We've got the set of brackets here, and we've got the set of brackets here. So we're going to expand them to get rid of them, and you can use any method you want. I'm just going to use this kind of grid method. So we're doing 4 times, and inside the brackets we've got 3x plus 5. So I'm going to times those out. 4 times 3 is 12, so that'll be 12x. 4 times 5 is 20, so that's going to be positive 20. And I'm going to do the same for the other set of brackets. Now on the outside the brackets we've got to be careful here. It's not a 5, it's a minus 5. And inside the brackets is an x and a 2. So minus 5 times x is minus 5x. Minus 5 times 2 is minus 10. So when we put it all together, we get 12x plus 20 minus 5x minus 10. And then the rest of it is just equals 52. So I'm going to start by putting my lines in because we're solving. And I'm actually just going to start by collecting the like terms on the left hand side. So 12x take away 5x is going to be 7x. And 20 take away 10 is going to be 10. Okay, now we need to get rid of the plus 10. So we'll take away 10 both sides. So we've got 7x equals 42. And then we need to get rid of the times 7. So we're going to divide 7 both sides. So x equals 6. The word truncated means that we just literally cut off the next number along. So if we imagine this is our number, we just cut it off. So it's not the same as rounding. We just don't change this digit at all. We just cut off the remaining digits. So the smallest number it could be before it was cut off is 79.500000. The largest number it could have been, well, it could have been 79.5999, etc. So that's the largest it could have been. So to do our error interval, well, the smallest it could have been is 79.5, and it could have been 79.5, and we'll call this x. But we're looking at any number that is less than 79.6. So any number that's less than 79.6. If it was 79.6, then when we cut it off, it would show as 79.6. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, but if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, it's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11, and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power 4s together, and remember with indices, if you times two powers of the same base and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8, and we're going to add the w to the power 5s together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8 w to the power of 10. So the way this formula works is we have m, which is the final amount, the 2000 here is our initial amount, the decimal in here is our multiplier, and the power here is the amount of years. So the way multipliers work is they are the percentage divided by 100. So if we go the other way and times it by 100 to make it back into a percentage, it will be 102.9%. Now it says, what is the interest rate of the bank? Well, the interest rate is always going to be 100%. Well, this 102.9% is 100% plus the interest rate, which will equal the 102.9%. So the interest rate is going to be the 2.9%. You always start off with 100%. So if I put £5 into my bank, I've got 100% of that £5, and then the interest rate is on top of that 100%. So our answer here will be 2.9%. So we're asked to express TQ in terms of P and Q. Well, we've got another Q here, because all of these are congruent parallelograms, and we have a P there. So if we're starting at T and getting to Q, we can go along this path here and down this path here. So we're going backwards down Q, in fact backwards down two lots of Q, and then the correct way down P. So it's either minus 2Q plus P or P minus 2Q. The first thing that we can actually work out for this Venn diagram is this part here. So it says 12 had a cat but not a dog. So the cat but not a dog is showed with this A here. So if 12 had a cat but not a dog, and in total 22 had a cat, we're going to do 22 take away 12, which is 10. So 10 had a cat and a dog. If 16 had a dog, and 10 also had a cat, that means that 6 had a dog. Let's make sure we fill these in. And if overall there were 31 people, and there were 12 who just had a cat, 10 who had a cat and a dog, and 6 who had a dog, That leaves 3 left over. So to find the probability of A and B, which is what that sign means, we're going to work out the amount of people, or the amount in A and B, and we're going to put that over the total amount. So A and B means it's the overlap, so that's going to be 7, and the total amount is all of the numbers added together, which will be 23. So our answer is that the probability of picking A and B is 7 over 23. When we multiply numbers, it doesn't actually matter which order we multiply them. So I can actually rewrite this as 7 times 9 times 10 to the power of 2 times 10 to the power of 9. 7 times 9 is 63. And 10 to the power of 2 times 10 to the power of 9, we add the powers, so it'd be 10 to the power of 11. Now here we've got a problem. It looks like standard form, but it is not standard form, because standard form has to be a number between 1 and 10, but not including 10. And here we've got 63. So what I'm going to do is just quickly write out what number this is. So we've got the decimal point here. And you don't need to do this, but I find it a bit easier to show what we're doing. So here we've got 10 to the power of 11, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We fill these all out with zeros, and that's the number we've created here. A lot of zeros. Now, to make it a number between 1 and 10, not including 10, the decimal point, it needs to be here. So we want that to end up with 6.3 times 10 to the power of, well, let's work that out now. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to be 10 to the power of 12. Now you don't need to do all the working out I've just shown there. You just need to know when you convert that 63 into a 6.3, you need to add 1 to the power. Something we know about rectangles is opposite sides are equal. So these two will be equal. And these two will be equal. And you notice now that we've got simultaneous equations. So what I'm going to do is get the coefficient of the y the same. And I'm going to do that by multiplying everything in the second equation by 3. So we get 6x plus 9y equals 123. And I'm just going to write in the first equation underneath, because with simultaneous equations we work downwards. Now looking at the signs, they are the same, and the s in same is the s in subtract. So we're going to subtract going downwards. We're just going to subtract going downwards. So 6x take away 3x is 3x. 9y take away 9y is nothing, which is good. That's what we need. And then 123 take away 93 is 30. We're going to get our solving lines in, and we're just going to divide by 3 both sides. So we've got x equals 10. So we know what x is, but we need to find out what y is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick one of the equations. I can pick the 2x plus 3y equals 41, and just substitute the value of x in. So 2 times, instead of x, it's times 10, plus 3y equals 41. So it would be 20 plus 3y equals 41. Get my solving lines in. And we're going to take away 20 both sides. So we've got 3y equals 21. And then we're going to divide by 3 both sides, if I don't run out of room. So y equals 7. So we've got x equals 10, y equals 7. Now I could check that with the first equation as well. So 3 times 10 is 30, 9 times 7 is 63, 30 plus 63 is 93. So we know we've got it right. When it's said that y is inversely proportional to x, it means that y changes as 1 over x changes. And to write this in an equation, all we do is we just write y equals k over x. Now k is something we need to find. So what we need to do is find out what a value of y and a value of x are somewhere on the graph that would be formed from this, and we've got that in this question. So we know that when y is 7, then x is going to be 7.9. And what I need to do now is just draw my lines down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just times both sides by 7.9. And so we have k equals, and it'd be 7 times 7.9, which is 55.3. So we know that k is 55.3. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation here, or this formula here. But instead of k, I know that it's going to be 55.3. So our answer is y equals 55.3 over x. So to answer this question, you need to just know the answer off by heart. There is a diagram that can help us actually get there. And if we just draw a right angle triangle and put the lengths as 1, not right angle here, we can use Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to work out the fact that this is going to be root 2. Because it's an isosceles triangle, this angle here is going to be 45 degrees, and same with the bottom right one, but we're not interested in that. When we label it with our marked angle here, we've got the adjacent is here, and the hypotenuse is here. Now we know from trigonometry that cos x equals a over h. The angle is going to be cos 45, and a is going to be 1, and h is going to be root 2. Now, this is a bit of a strange one with 1 over root 2, because we need to actually be able to rationalise the denominator. And basically what that means, if you haven't done surds yet, or you aren't doing surds, is you times Tom Bomb by root 2. And so we end up with root 2 over 2. So if you ever see 1 over root 2 is absolutely fine as an answer, but if you ever see the answer as root 2 over 2, the two are actually exactly the same. So writing 1 over root 2 is fine, or writing root 2 over 2 is also correct. There's two parts to this power. I'm just going to do it a bit bigger so we can see. We've got the negative here, and the negative will mean that we will find the reciprocal, and we've got this 3 here, which is just what the power will be. So how do we find the reciprocal? Well, if you think about the number 10, if you had to write that as a fraction, you would write it as 10 over 1. And so to find the reciprocal of it, we're just going to flip that fraction. So this will now become 1 over 10. We haven't dealt with that cube yet. So we're going to cube top and bottom with that fraction. Well, it's not going to do anything to the top because 1 cubed is just 1. But the bottom will turn into 1,000. So it's going to be 1 over 1,000. What I'm going to start off by doing is rearranging this equation so that it kind of matches this one. So I'm just going to write it down. And we want the n to be minus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my rearranging lines in, and we're just going to add 10 to both sides. Now, we've already got this line drawn for us on this graph. And so all we need to do is draw this line. So we've got y equals 10x squared plus 8x minus 2 drawn for us. We just need to draw this line, which is y equals 10, and see where they cross over to find the solutions. So y equals 10 will be all the way up at the top. Let's just make sure I get it nice. There we are. I need to move that up a little bit. There we are. And let's read off the values that that gives us. So it comes down here, and it comes down here. So the values it comes down to are minus 1.6 and 0.8, and those are our solutions. So we've got to get the left hand side factorised, so we put down two sets of brackets, and we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to make that 24 and add together to make the 14, and we're going to have an x at the start of each of those brackets. So 24 would be 12 and 2 would add together to make 14, so plus 12 plus 2. And to solve, we get the left hand bracket equal to 0, and we get our solving lines in. So minus 12 both sides, and you get x equals minus 12, so that's one of our solutions. And we do exactly the same thing with the other bracket, get it equal to 0, and solve. So we're going to take away 2 from both sides to get x on its own, so x equals minus 2. So our solutions are 12 and minus 2. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our OnMaths site. OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.